Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. We are so glad you all chose to join us again tonight to hear about another amazing resource going in our country this time. It's not just in our state, but we are talking about an application that is across our country right now. So, with no further ado, let's welcome Jason and Phil to the show. Welcome, men. How are you?
Hello, how are
Hi,
you?
how are you doing? Glad to be here.
Good. I am so excited to talk to both of you tonight. But I would like to let our audience know who you are and what you do. So, Jason, let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is Jason De Silva. I'm the founder of an organization called AXSLAB. So AXSLAB has a mission to serve people with disabilities through media and technology. We do several different things, but our largest project that we're going to talk about today is called AXSMAP. So AXSMAP is a way to rate and view places all around the world on its disability friendliness. So I'll just stop there with that. We can talk more about it afterwards.
Perfect. Phil, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Phil Bader, and I'm a longtime disability rights advocate and community organizer. I've been working in the New York City area on access and disability rights issues for more years than I care to admit. I've worked with an organization called Disabled in Action, which was an organization, probably the oldest disability rights organization, modern disability rights organization in the United States, founded by Judy Heumann. God bless her soul. Let's take a moment to remember her. She's founded that organization 50 years ago, and it's still running strong, working on disability rights in New York City. I'm currently the treasurer of the 504 Democratic Club, the oldest or disability political club in the United States, strictly interested in promoting disability rights. We've been working in New York City for about 40 years. The disability rights community here in New York is very old and very established and hardworking. We have lots of contacts in City Hall, and they do a lot of good work. I've also produced a radio show on WBAI, part of the Pacifica Network, that was on disability rights, and it was called The Largest Minority. And you can see what's left of that that radio show at largestminority.net. And I think I've gone long enough on that.
No, that's amazing. The second thing that we usually say is usually when we're talking about apps or things about disability rights. Phil, tell us what your relationship to the disability community is.
Well, I'd like to organize the community. I'm real interested in getting, and this is where Jason and I kind of collaborate and work together. Jason's focus, he's a very modest guy. He's an Emmy award-winning filmmaker, and he is an incredibly creative artist in the work that he's done. He has a long a great, what would you call it, filmography of the work that he's done. I'm kind of his aide and assistant with disability rights. I'm on his board, and I kind of do the technical stuff. I just took a course from the ADA centers. Does everybody know what the ADA centers are? There are 10 of them across the United States, funded by the federal government. They give a course, and they have a curriculum that talks about how to promote access. And I just took their 4-week course, and I am officially qualified to do ADA training. It's called the Training Leadership Network. So I try to do a lot of stuff with disability.
That's
So
awesome.
As a board member, Phil, I'm really excited to work with Phil on having some of the skills that he just received from that training, and we can use it towards some of the mapping that we're doing, AXSMAP, and how to make
It is,
places more
yeah.
accessible.
It is a great training. I took it myself, and it is a lot of filled. But Jason, tell everybody what your relationship to the disability community is.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at 25 years old with multiple sclerosis. I had been working as a filmmaker for I think it was 8 years up until then. So I had films at Sundance. I had 3 films on PBS POV by that point. And then all of a sudden I was having trouble walking. So I went to my doctor, got checked out, and he turned around within 2 weeks. He said, "You have multiple sclerosis." So I didn't know what to do with myself. So what I did do is I realized that I could do something to support others like me. So others that were having trouble getting into places and really had accessibility needs. So that's what took me on the new journey with starting the nonprofit and starting AXSMAP.
That is incredible because you sound just like me and a lot of other advocates like us. We become disabled and we find a new purpose, and we find a new way to still help people. So I commend you for that. So let's talk a little bit about AXSLAB and AXSNAP. First of all, I want to know where the name came from. It's been curious to me. So where did that name came from, Jason?
Yeah, that's good. So access, I wanted so the whole idea of access. So when I say access, it's spelled AXS. So when we're talking about Access Lab and Access Map, it literally is spelled AXS. So really, we just wanted to find a way to use that same term of access, but kind of like throw it on its head to have something new. So that's really all it was. So we wanted to have access, but be something different than what people typically expect access to be.
Now you really sound like my kind of people when you want to turn something on its head. I do that on a daily basis.
Nice.
It's so incredible. So let's get into it. Let's talk about AXSMAP. Tell us how it started and where we're at today.
Oh yeah, okay. So I started Access Map in 2008. So that's really when I realized the importance. So you had all these things like Yelp, you had Google Places that were at, but there was no real good way to rate places on their accessibility. I think Google has one now. So, but back when I first started, it was like there was nothing. So I could find out what restaurants I wanted to go to, and I could like rate a restaurant or cafe, but or even go to a movie theater, but I had no idea what these places were and how accessible that they are. So literally, I was living in the East Village at the time. I'd be going on a date or like meeting up with my friend, and then I would be blocked because it was up a flight of stairs and I wouldn't be able to get in. So I had to just stop everything and figure it. I was like literally sitting on my living room on a Friday night, and I was like, there has to be a new way to make it so we can find out what places are accessible. That was the birth of AXSMAP. So really, it was to find a way to rate all the places that are accessible around you or not accessible around you. I think it's being in the middle of New York City taught me that really it runs the gamut. Like the ADA, yeah, the ADA is the ADA, but accessibility runs the gamut to from not accessible to accessible. And yeah, that's why we created AXSMAP.
It's incredible. And I was just out in New York in February for New York Fashion Week, and I have to say, New York seems a lot more accessible than Rhode Island here. There was a lot of places. I mean, I was like right in the center of Times Square and everything like that. So a lot of those stores and shops I could roll right in. I couldn't get past the first door, especially in the souvenir shops, because they pack so much in there that I really couldn't get much past the front door, but I could at least roll in, where that's, a major problem over here in Rhode Island, that just getting in the front door is an issue. So Phil, tell us a little bit about this from a technical standpoint about this access map and how it works.
AXSMAP, again, as I have to check with Jason, but I believe it's the largest crowdsourced database of accessible places rated by people in the world. What's good about it is it's usually, it doesn't have to be, but it's usually done by people with disabilities or their family members or friends. Jason mentioned that Google has disability rating system, but it's not, there's no standards to it. It doesn't work well. They haven't decided to plug in with anybody else. And I would say the Google system of rating mainly has to do with their larger with larger organizations somehow giving Google their information. A small business cannot explain or rate how accessible they are. So Google is not a reliable system. AXSMAP has been going through changes. I don't know if I'm allowed to say PricewaterhouseCooper donated development funds and they have developed AXSMAP and improved it. It's a very complete a rating system, basically done in a binary way. Is there access? Isn't there access? Is there a ramp? Is it a code ramp? It's very complete and well designed. And we're I guess Jason will talk about the improvements that are happening to it, but it's a very well rated system.
Yeah. Now, do you list everything that is and is not accessible, or is it someplace where you can go and tell me what the most accessible places are for us to go in New York? Jason, break that down for us.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. So it's very specific. So that's one thing that we did. We worked with PricewaterhouseCooper. It was our old version of AXSMAP used to be a 5-star system. Now, what does that mean exactly? Like, how do you choose if a place is a 2? How do you choose if it's 4? It doesn't make any sense. So, like, people with disabilities, we really need to know. Like, it's does this place have a ramp? Like, can we get into entryway? Like all these, like things like sort of low tables, things like that. So AXSMAP goes into all those details in a binary system. So a yes/no system. So as the user, it'll ask you a series of questions, and the rating system will be created based on your answers. So there are places that will not have certain things because they won't be accessible. New York City is as you know, it's great in some places like Times Square, but other places there's old tenement buildings and people don't want to renovate. And there's people, we tried to get them to renovate, but in the meantime, AXSMAP is there to tell other people with disabilities that these places are inaccessible or accessible. And that's the value of AXSMAP.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. I mean, I travel a lot, and hotels will tell me that they're accessible, or and then you get there and there's no towel rack where you could actually reach the towel once you're in the shower, or you know what I mean. They have the hearing impairment light on the front door, but no way of opening the door. So when I'm trying to struggle with my suitcase and my wheelchair, there are certain places that people just don't realize you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. So having people of disability, you know, doing the evaluations makes more sense because at least we know what we're talking about. And I can't speak for what Jason can do, just like Jason can't speak what I can do or what somebody else can do. So my idea of accessibility could be far off different than Jason's idea. I love the binary number. How long have you been doing this, and about how many places or where exactly have you rated so far?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So, as Phil said, we are the largest database in North America for locations. So we have rate on accessible locations or not. We have 140,000 places rated. We right now we have I think it's 16,000 registered users. So we just keep growing, but it's really great. Like the amount of work that we've done over the past 15 years has really made it so we're like a mainstay of accessibility in North America.
Hopefully this program will get more people interested in it, because the more people, more grassroots participation we have, the better it becomes. It becomes a community resource.
Okay, Phil, you open up the door, so I'm going to let you take this one. How does somebody become an AXSMAP user?
Jason or me, very simple. You go to the website, accessmap.com, and you register. And you just it's powered by Google Map. So as the website comes up, you'll see a Google Map, and you simply direct the Google Map to where you are. It'll usually, if you don't block your GPS, it'll give you an idea where you are, and you just pull up a place, a venue on Google Map, click on it, and rate it. It's that simple. It's really easy to use.
And again,
Jason?
that's AXSMAP, AXSMAP.com. So go to AXSMAP.com and start rating the places that you go, because I'll tell you, I've signed up and I've been rating places. I mean, I'm not out and about until my van gets here, but when I'm out at my hotels and stuff like that, I am rating them. Jason, tell us a little more of why people should get involved.
Yeah, so you know, access map is I really think it's important that people need to know what places are accessible, if not for themselves, for others. Like it's actually not just so it's not just people with disabilities. It's moms and dads with strollers. It's anybody with accessibility needs. So by making this world more disability friendly, it's making it more friendly for all of us. So it really is it's for society at large.
And with disability being the largest minority in this country that anyone can join at any time, we don't discriminate across the board. So you may be perfectly fine today, and tomorrow you could be part of this great community. It's not a death sentence. It's not a bad thing. I've done more things for my wheelchair than I did when I was walking. It's just a different way of doing things. So having this rating system just prepares it for you or your aging parent or somebody you might know would need this accessibility down the road. As I always say, if we can make the world accessible now, it's one less problem we have down the road when we need it.
Right.
Phil, what would
That's
you like
right.
to add to
That's
that?
right.
What I wanted to jump in and say, it's like we have this wonderful 33-year-old law, the Americans with Disabilities Act, that really mandates accessible architecture and barrier removal moving forward. But New York City is a great city. Providence, Rhode Island is a great city. But these are old cities with old architecture. And it's hard to redo the old stuff. Some of the old stuff just really, to a certain extent, can't be redone. That's why a resource like AXSMAP is so important. It lets
Right.
in a city like New York, there's places we'll never get in our lifetimes. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the places where we can.
And let's just correct one thing that Phil said. Everything can be done. If you're open to public, there is a way. You're not going to drill through 1,000-year-old marble. Absolutely not. But there is no such thing as grandfathered in. And if you're open to the public, you must have at least one access point for people of all abilities. So I always say, I just made a theater that's over 100 years old, fully wheelchair accessible from the stage to the audience. So nothing is off plate. So let's
Okay.
not give anybody an excuse. Jason.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Tina, I have a question for you. So when you say that nothing needs to be grandfathered in, or is that like an excuse that they always give, or is that actually true that's something that doesn't need to happen?
Well, everybody gives it as the excuse that I'm grandfathered in. There is no such thing as being grandfathered in. The ADA has been around for 33 years now. By
Yeah.
now, everybody should be accessible because let's face it, just here in Rhode Island, 40% of Rhode Islanders use a mobility aid, whether it's a walker, wheelchair, and a cane. So if you're so-called grandfathered in, you are missing out on 40% of the population who in this economy could be missing. And we come with people, we come with spouses, we come with friends, we come with people.
Mhm.
So not only are you missing out on us, you're also missing out on the people that we come with. So it's only to your benefit to be accessible than it is for you to use the lame term we're grandfathered in. That really
Yeah.
is just an excuse and it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. I'm gonna go around, and when anybody gives that excuse, I'm just gonna mention all that.
Perfect. Phil, I know you had a comment to that because I could see your wheels turning.
No, I used to do construction a long time ago, and there are small store owners in New York City, and the law states that people with disabilities have to be reasonably accommodated, and that's a mentality we need to set in people's minds. A lot of times, I can point to stores in New York City that cannot be made, that you couldn't put a ramp on. It was just the sidewalks are too narrow, and they have 3 steps to get in. And how do you put a ramp here? But put a sign on your door that I will bring, if I'm a takeout restaurant, I'll bring food to your order to your car. I will accommodate you. I want to see people thinking about disabled people, and not
Well,
and not forgetting about us.
yeah. Well, we figured that out here in Rhode Island. It's called a suitcase ramp. It's a portable ramp that you can put on and take off. It can go out to 10 feet, so it can go right from the street to the venue. They cost anywhere from $200 to $700. And you can take it off in our great New England weather when it decides to snow in April or whenever it else decides to snow. And are you completely ADA compliant? No, but are you able to let more of us in so that way you can make the proper adjustments as you go along? Absolutely. So again, I say there's no excuse. We always
Yeah.
find a way. Because like I said, we could literally save the economy if every business went accessible, because you're letting more and more people in. That's raising your bottom line. We're basically begging you to do this so you can get more money. It's that simple, you know, and I think this AXSMAP is fantastic for doing just this, because this is what we need. This is what we need. And you know, if you got two places side by side and they're like a one, and then you have one that's fully accessible in the middle, what's the other two's excuse? So you can always use that in the long run, saying, hey, the place on either side was getting all of our business. How about you figuring out how to do it?
Yeah, right.
Right. One of my chief criteria for people will ask me, "Is it a good restaurant?" And I'll look at it and go, "Nope, it's got a step to get in."
Yeah, I rate the same way, Phil. Me and you are on the same wavelength. If I can't get in, it's not a good restaurant. I don't care how much good your food is. Although I do pop up a table out in front of those restaurants and say you can bring the food out to me, and it opens the conversation of accessibility. So again, I always
Exactly.
find my way. But Jason, tell me how much this AXSMAP app has changed your life and how you get around.
Yeah, so like that last comment you said, see, I'm not that guy. Like I'm not the type of guy that like I will just go on to the so I wouldn't go in front of a restaurant and give them business that they don't deserve because they're not accessible. So I maybe it's me being a New Yorker, but like I will just there's so many places here. I'll just say like screw off. I'll go to the next place that is actually accessible and they'll get my business and that's it. I don't care how good sandwich is. I don't care if they're not accessible, they're not going to get my business. So yeah, so sorry. What was your question?
No, but I agree with that. You know, like if I have plans with friends and stuff like that, I will just go with the flow and go to but if I'm out by myself, I will always open the conversation to accessibility. So
Yeah,
however I could open that arena up, because again, some businesses don't realize how easily they can become affordably accessible without somebody like us opening the door in a positive way without being confrontational or
yeah,
yelling at them. So we always find a pleasant way to present it to at least open that doorway. But no,
yeah,
my
yeah.
question was, how
Yeah, I get
does
that.
Access Map change your life and the way you go around?
Yes, yeah. So that's partly so that's part of the part of that same comment. So I really think that like I created Access Map because I wanted to do something to put it out there and rate the places that were accessible, but also the places that were inaccessible. So I wanted the disability community to know what places they could get into, but also what places they couldn't get into. So really, I just wanted it to be transparent. I think that's why we don't have enough places on there. I mean, we have 140,000 places, but there's always more and more and more. So we could get more places on there, and we need to teach people what places are inaccessible and accessible. So
How
like
many times? Sorry,
yeah.
David, go ahead.
So what one thing that I'm like so the developers and I'm lobbying for something that needs to go onto the map actually. We're going to talk about like changes in the future for the map. It's one thing that's important is a comments box. So I think there's specificity to certain people and their disabilities. And I wanted to be known for other people what their experience was like. So I think that, yeah. And also people just like the rant too. So they want to rant and like let other people know about the details of the accessibility of a place. So that's something that will come in the future.
Yeah, and
That's
what people need to realize is like again, one accessibility, like what is accessible to me and Jason that we can roll into with our wheelchairs may not work for somebody who's autistic or for somebody else with a different disability. So by having the comments in there, and please be pleasant with your comments. You're going to catch more attention with honey than not. I believe it's all in the presentation. If you give your experience, whether it's good or bad, in a positive light, you'll have more people, or the business will step forward more to make those accommodations, that if you just go, I will never bash a business because I will never go back to that business to get them to open up if I do that. So I always, again, it's like the juiciest steak with all of the trimmings, the gravy, peas, and the vegetables, and you present it to somebody on a garbage can. Are you going to eat it? No. So it's all in the way you present yourself, and you present. More businesses will be open to the conversation if you give strategic plans and ideas of how to fix the problem. When you're giving your comment, you can get more people with honey than you can with your bad comments, because they may not know how to fix it, and they'll say, why bother, because we don't want more people in here like this bashing us anyway, so why bother? Phil, you look like you have a comment to that.
Well, no, I was going to say that's why AXSMAP went to the binary. Is the door wide enough? Is there a ramp? It's yes, no. The comments come in. The place is accessible, but the door saddle is very high and uncomfortable to bump over. Just so you can give people a warning and a heads up. The beauty of AXSMAP is, as people with disabilities, how many times have you had friends say, "Let's go to the so and so restaurant," and it's like, wait a minute, your friends haven't thought about disability, but we have. AXSMAP gives you a tool that you might be able to use to tell your friends, guys, there are 2 steps to get into that restaurant. Why don't we look for a different place?
Right. No, I think that's fantastic. Jason?
Well, I wanted to bring up the fact that we're doing these New York City mapathons. So a mapathon is a bunch of people getting together to rate and review places on AXSMAP and how accessible a vicinity is. So like an example is we just had one in I think it's been about a month now. We had a place we had a mapathon here in Long Island City, Queens, and we had about 25 to 35 people that came. Yeah, it's great. And then we just like go nuts and raid all the places. So we split certain areas into quadrants, and then different people will go in different quadrants, and that's we're actually doing 6 more in New York City over the next 6 months. So it's really exciting. It's kind of like our big relaunch of AXSMAP after the craziness of the pandemic. We wanted to make it possible, so we had a push to get people out and about and rating places again. We really wanted to say AXSMAP is still around and it's as good as it is. So please get out there and work with us to rate more places.
Yeah,
And
make sure you're
AXSMAP,
downloading that. Yeah, make sure you're downloading that app, AXSMAP.com. Go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say, as a user, you can organize your own mapathons. It's very easy to do on AXSMAP. You can get your friends together and just sweep a neighborhood and tell us where the good places are. When we get to Rhode Island,
You know
then
it.
we know what we're doing.
Yeah. And this is a good idea to get together with your local legislators or leaders in your community. Bring them around. Like what we do here in Rhode Island is I tell them, you pick a street. I'm not picking it, you pick it. And we'll just roll around that street and see how many places I can actually get in, or I can participate with you. And we do it all the time during the summer and the spring. And I'll tell you, it opens up a lot of eyes, and we're putting a lot of money into accessibility because of that. So here is a good way to engage with your local legislators and leaders, mayors, senators, and bring them out for the day, bring them out for an afternoon, and let them pick the streets, so they don't think that you're gearing it towards, the worst streets that are inaccessible. Let them pick the streets and see how many places you can get in. Some days it's a good day, most days it's not. And get out there. Again, it's AXSMAP.com. download it and start using it today. Jason, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I gotta correct on one thing you said. So right now it's not in the app. So that's in progress right now. So we have right now it's the website, it's a mobile web app. So that means it's available on Safari or on your Android. It works as good as an app, but it's gonna be something that you put on your phone through Safari or Android as a mobile web app, but you can use it as normal.
That's
Right.
incredible. I just love this. Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was going to say, you can use it on. I have to ask Jason at this point. Can you use it on your mobile phone in the phone's browser?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So
And
everybody can use it.
Jason's working on a mobile phone app on Android and
Yeah, that's the
iOS.
next step. Yeah, so that's in the works.
Yeah. That is fantastic. So what's the future? What do you see AXSMAP in the next 5 years, Jason?
If I say like my grand vision of AXSMAP is I strive for a world that is 100% accessible. So we know all people know of what places they can get in or not get into. I just want the accessibility to be transparent. So that's my overall vision. And I really hope that AXSMAP can be part of that change. I think it's gonna take time, but we can get there.
Phil, where do you see it in 5 years?
I'm following Jason's lead. My job is to support this guy in what he does.
Mm.
You do that very, very well.
Yeah, that's
As
right.
I say, ramp, I have the worst business model ever because my business model is I'm going to be out of business. I don't have to be talking about accessibility because we already have universal design. It's already out there. So, I believe Access Map is the same thing. Somewhere down the road, we may not need something like this because universal design took over and everything will be accessible. But in the meantime, Access Map is such a great tool. It's so user friendly. It's so easy to do, and anybody can do it. You do not have to have a disability to use this application or to use this in your web browser. You can be somebody who supports the disabled community or notice something to help out along the way. So download it. I mean, check it out on your web browser. We're going to have an app for it soon. But just get out there and get using it. Jason, in closing, tell us 1 minute why everybody, get best plea of why everybody should be using Access Map.
Yeah, I could say that the important thing is with and I did this with PricewaterhouseCooper. We worked together and we wanted to make Access Map something that was not just on accessibility, but that it's also fun and easy to use. So it's a way to really, it's like an educational tool about what makes a place accessible or inaccessible. The series of questions that we add, I think the questions are informed by the ADA actually. So there's a certain level of education that you will be taken from Access Map. And at the same time, you're actually just fueling the system by rating a place. But yeah, in that way, that's why rather than read the ADA, which you're totally welcome to do, but it's a lot shorter to be able to use Access Map and rate places for everybody else to go to.
I like it. Phil, give us your 1 minute plea on why everybody should use Access Map.
Access Map is a really simple tool um, that can be used by the community to organize itself. In other words, most people with physical disabilities, with mobility impairments, think about access. And I would love to see the community cooperating more And the more the community comes together and works together, the better it is for all of us. Getting involved politically with our on local issues, all politics is local, and getting communities to change their local laws to make building codes that mandate, which is what happened here in New York, that mandate accessibility in ways that the ADA hasn't even thought of. Using AXSMAP as a tool of community organization is what I would like to see.
Oh, I love it. And don't think that I'm not bringing this to my fellows at the United States Access Board when I'm up there in Washington, sitting amongst all of them and talking about this. So I will be bringing you along with me, and I plan on getting down to one of your mapping visits yet. But thank you both so much for taking the time and telling everybody about AXSMAP. And again, AXSMAP.com. Go down, use it, log businesses, log places. Let's get way more than 140,000, because there's way more places that we want to get in. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight. I truly appreciate both of you.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you. And as always, I invite you guys all back here next Wednesday night, same time, same channel. We will be talking everything from Office of Healthy Aging. A lot of updates going on. You do not want to miss the show. And as I always say, don't just sit there, make a difference. Have a great night, everybody.